This story comes from the Isle of Skye, and it comes from a time when people wouldn't have survived without banding together. People would get together and help each other with the peat cutting. They would share the excess food they had, and they would all pull together and support each other in tough times such as the winter. Now, this story comes from over 150 years ago in a little glen called Ollisdale. And this glen had once been populated with many, many people, a close-knit community. But as in many places in the Highlands, those people had been cleared. Those people had been removed from their home to make way for the sheep. So it came to the point where there was only one cottage inhabited in the whole glen. And that belonged to the shepherd and the shepherd's wife, Mary. Now, Mary was one of the old sort. She believed in the strange old ways that had been popular in her youth. So not only would she share with the people around her, but she would leave a little something out for the wee folk, for the fairies. A little bit of cream on the milk, a little bit of oatmeal, a little bit of butter. Whatever they had excess of, that she would leave a little bit out down at the bottom of the garden, and always it would be gone the next day. And people thought her strange, but she was kindly enough. There came a time when the shepherd had died, and she was alone, and even though she had little, she would still leave a little bit out for the fairies, for the wee folk. And as was the way, even though there was no one left in the glen, there was a man called Donald in the next glen, and he would always keep an eye on old Mary and make sure she was okay. A couple of times a year, he would take his horse pulling a cart along the glen, and he would take her a bag of tea, some salted fish, some oatmeal. Whatever extra he had, he would come and make sure she had enough to get her through the year. And they would always catch up, pass on the news, and he would hear the strange old stories that she used to tell about when she was a girl. There was one year, however, when the winter came in hard, it came in early. It came in a blizzard. And Donald looked out his window and he realised that the snow wasn't going to stop anytime soon. Flakes upon flakes upon flakes and a howling wind, and he thought, there's no way I can get across to check on Mary. There's no way my horse will make it through this. And it seemed like the snow would never end. The drifts got higher and higher and higher. And he feared the worst, for he knew that her goat wasn't giving milk at the moment. He'd be surprised if she'd had time to get her potatoes or tatties in yet. And as every day of snowfall followed, he became more and more concerned for the health of this old woman. Eventually, there was a break in the snow. Eventually, there was a blue sky, and even though the snow was still laying thick on the ground, he managed to take his way out of his own cottage and carry his way on up to Ollisdale. He took a sack of provisions on his back, some oatmeal, some fish, just a few bits and pieces. And it has to be said he feared the worst. Whatever concerns he had, they were doubled when he saw Mary's cottage, when he saw the whole cottage covered with snow and just the tiny chimney poking out the top. I thought, oh God, I don't know what I'm going to find here. And when he got closer, even worse than that, he saw scampering out of the chimney, a great dog fox. And the dog fox disappeared into the distance, licking his lips, and he thought, oh my God, this dirty dog fox has been chewing on old Mary's bones. What am I going to find? It's going to be horrific. But he couldn't turn back now. So he carried on, and when he got close to the cottage, he noticed there was just a tiny wisp of smoke. He could smell the peat in the air, and there was a tiny wisp of smoke coming from the chimney. In these days, the chimneys were great, wide openings that came up through the centre of the roof. He thought, well, that's strange. And he had a little bit of hope. So he managed to scramble his way down the chimney. He got down into the house, and there he saw old Mary, sitting as happy and as healthy as he'd ever seen her. He said, Mary, Mary, you're alive. Of course I'm alive, she said. Mary, Mary, I thought that dirty dog Fox had been chewing on your bones. I feared the worst when I saw it, but you're sitting here as right as rain. How can that be so?" And she said that was not a dirty great dog Fox, that was a very nice fox. For every day it's brought me either a rabbit or a hare. It's brought me something to eat each day that it's hunted for me. And with that and the snow melted water, I've lived rather well. And so it was with great relief he heard the story, and they sat. They shared some tea, they shared some food, they shared some banter, some crack. And happily, at the end of that afternoon, Donald made his way home in the knowledge that old Mary was safe and she'd enough to see her through the winter at least. And when he scrambled out of the chimney and he looked, and he wondered about where the fox had gone, he looked and there was no footprints left in the snow. Nothing at all. No matter how he searched, he could see not one paw print, only his own great footsteps from his boots. And it was then, when he thought about this fox that had been returning the favours to Mary, when he noticed there was not one footprint in the snow, he remembered how she always left something out for the wee folk. And then he thought maybe there was something in these old stories after all. And that is a tale of kindness. Kindness between people, and also a kindness that stretches beyond the world of people to the non-human realm.